This is almost certainly the oldest type of dam ever built. This is a Fieldstone dam. I'm Darren, and this is the Industrial Revolution. So I'm here at the site of Sile Mills, and this Fieldstone dam, also called an embankment dam or a earthen dam. These dams are very simple. In this case, you can see it's just huge piles of stone that were laid out here. And actually it diverted water through a channel just upriver down to a sawmill and a grist mill. Let's take a closer look. So these dams are quick and easy to build. Out here on the Huron River, and we're at pretty low water levels today. All you had to do was get a hold of the local farmers and say, hey, you know those all those stones you have piled up out in your field that you want to get rid of? Bring them out to my mill, throw them in the river. I'll even give you a discount on milling for doing that. So the original dam out here was quite a bit higher, really. In fact, if we take a look around behind us, we can see it may have gone up to another 4 or 5 feet higher. This is the sort of a levee built between the river and the mill race just beyond it in the mill pond. As I mentioned, the water here is very low right now. So how would you build this kind of dam? Well, anytime you're running a water-powered mill, you've got to have water. The higher drop you have, the better. The more consistent water supply you have, the better. Consistency was an issue. If you've seen my earlier video on Sile Mills here, you know the water was way higher and you could barely see any of these rocks in the river. Today you see these channels have been recontoured, the dam's been lowered, and the channels that you see out there, sort of at the far end between here and the island, those were actually set up to allow for canoes and kayaks to come down this river at times of low water, such as we have now. And even with this low dam, much lower than it was originally, looking upriver, you've got a nice pond up there. Well, what kind of problems do you have with these? They're quick, they were simple, they were easy to build, they were durable. This river never really gets wild enough to toss this size rock around. The problem with earthen dams, though, not so much on this river, when you have a breach, they tend to turn catastrophic pretty quick. This one, I said, has been partially dismantled, but that was done manually. So until 2019, the oldest known dam was actually this type of dam. It's the Jawa Dam in Jordan. It dates back to around 8000 BC. It's 15 feet tall, 80 feet long, and a 15-foot base. That's the oldest one at that point that had been found, but certainly much older dams existed. It's just they haven't been found because they don't hold up for thousands of years. Simple, intuitive design. Could be first used for irrigation and drinking water. Later on they were used to power mills. They were used for canals. And today you still find them in all sizes. They're used for everything from canals, recreational lakes, flood control levees, and even huge dams for major urban drinking water supplies and even electrical generation. One of the more popular types of dams during the Industrial Revolution was actually, believe it or not, a wooden dam. This dam, what's left of it anyway, was built here in 1838 for the Clinton and Kalamazoo Canal. It's a diversion dam, backed up the water behind it, and that let the water spill into the upper part of the canal, which is just a short distance behind me. Wooden dams like this were great. They were quick, they were easy to build, anybody could build one really, and they only had one major problem, or maybe two. First major problem, of course, being wood, they just didn't last very long, and you typically would have to rebuild them about every 20 to 30 years. The other major problem they had is they could break fairly easily if you didn't build it right. Let's take a closer look at this dam and take a look at the history of wooden dams. To build this wooden dam, they sank large timbers into the riverbed. Here on the near side, you can see where they had two timbers, one pointing downstream, one pointing upstream, that abutted against each other. You see another pair right next to the bank. Beside it, on the upstream side, you can see the planks that were used on the upstream side of the dam. Now here in Michigan, I'm in Clinton Township, Michigan, in Canal Park, about an hour outside of Detroit, and it's really dry here. We're on the edge of drought here. It's the beginning of October, and the water is very low. Wood doesn't stand up well to weathering and aging typically, except it stands up just fine if you either keep it very dry or you keep it submerged. The wood here, usually submerged. Here you can see a modern reconstruction of a wooden dam from Mill Creek up in northern Michigan. This one's only a few years old, but it's a crib dam, which you'd use for slightly larger dams. You see you have the wooden cribbing, which are large square chambers made of timbers. Those are filled with rocks. But you also have the sloped planks across the top, and those sloped planks will divert any debris floating down the river up over the top, hopefully not damaging the dam. So if you remember, I said the dam that was found in Jordan was the oldest known dam until 2019. And that's because in 2019 they found the Colombo Falls structure in Zambia. The structure has notched wooden logs that were found buried deep in wet mud that had stayed wet, and they were able to actually date this dam. As it happened, that dam dates to 477,000 years ago. Yes, 477,000 years. So we were building dams before humans were actually even human. Although they take a lot more work and skill to build, another type of dam that's been around for a long time, though not nearly as long as the Fieldstone or wooden dams, and which was widely used during the Industrial Revolution, is the masonry or Cutstone dam. Made of large cut blocks of stone and then assembled with or without mortar, these dams could be massive. Lots of early civilizations, of course, worked stone at this scale, and they built dams. But this one, in particular, was actually built in the 1850s in the bottom of Tinker's Creek Gorge outside Cleveland, Ohio, to power the Powers sawmill and grist mill here on Tinker's Creek. These large gravity dams could be built to nearly any size, and if well built and built directly on bedrock, they can be extremely durable. You might notice that this dam is actually missing about, well, half the dam. As is often the case with abandoned stone structures, I expect that this dam was mined out, which is the term for people coming and removing stone from an existing structure to build a new structure. Many of these stones are likely just up the valley wall in buildings in the city of Bedford. As with all the dams in this video, check the video description for links to the full video for that dam. So this is our last type of dam that was used in the Industrial Revolution. This is a concrete gravity dam. Gravity dams tend to be the smaller of the concrete dams. As you get bigger, you go into concrete buttress dams and arch dams. Concrete gravity dams, though, this is what you'd use in, any kind of a small mill where you aren't getting like huge dams, because a gravity dam does everything you need. Now here, this is fairly small, as you can see. I'm standing actually in the only spillway for this dam. We are in the middle of a drought, so my feet are barely wet. But even here, you have the large concrete structure here in the middle, 150 feet that way, 150 feet that way. We do have a concrete-lined embankment dam as well. So it's concrete on the face and then a sloped earthen bank both sides to provide support there. And actually here, so you have the 300 feet or so on this side. There's an even longer one over on the north side, but there's no spillway in that. That just runs continuous. So what are dams like this used for? Well, practically everything. So the first concrete dams were actually built right around 1880 or so. But around 1900, they really started to take off. Anyone that had wooden dams built, wooden dams had to be replaced every 20, 30 years really. And instead of building a wooden dam that was only going to last 20 or 30 years, they decided to start building concrete dams because, of course, concrete dams will last forever. You'll never have to replace them. Well, as it turns out, concrete dams don't actually last forever. It seems that concrete dams of this generation tend to last just about 100 years. And that's what we're seeing now with all the dam removals and things going on. And we can see some of the problems here. Now this dam is fairly small, it's fairly low water volume, and I assure you, Edsel Ford did not cut corners and did not try to save money on this. But as you can see, it's still undercut on the side here. It's cutting into the tower on the south side. A lot of the concrete there is missing. And the north side's actually even worse. When we go over there and take a look at the north side, you can see the entire bottom has been eroded away and broken away, exposing the reinforcing down at the bottom. And up here at the top, you have the same eroded away concrete here that you saw on the other side. This is a problem with concrete dams. They do eventually erode away. They also eventually leak. The tower here on the north side, both towers have large pipes through them that were used during the construction to divert the water flow. The one here on the north side is actually leaking fairly bad. There's not much water here today, as you can see. Got water bugs and frogs down here today. It's a great habitat for them. The reason that the frogs are here today is that the northern water snakes aren't. Often there's northern water snakes down here as well. But this is the only water flowing out of the lake today. Not counting that's flowing through the diversion tunnel, it's leaking through that tunnel, or maybe leaking underneath it.
Edsel Ford built this dam on his personal estate here in 1923 to create beautiful Haven Hill Lake. You can see the wide concrete section against the lake, there to take the wear and tear of wind and waves and ice, with the earthen embankment sloping down to the left. Unfortunately, like the spillway section, the concrete here is showing its age too.
So concrete dams like this really did seem to be the perfect solution to cheap, permanent dams. Unlike the wooden dams, they're going to last forever. Unlike the Fieldstone dams, they could be built quick and easy and cheap. Unfortunately, these dams didn't last forever. And like all of the dams of the Industrial Revolution, they're kind of at end of life right now. And that's why you keep hearing over and over about, this dam removal and that dam removal. Part of that, to be fair, is for environmental reasons. And there's some very good environmental reasons for dam removal, for removing reservoirs and things. But part of it, quite simply, is because these things are failing. But dam failure, an entirely different story for another day. For now, though, we're talking about the dams of the Industrial Revolution. And for 100 years, these concrete dams did a great job. And throughout the Industrial Revolution, from Fieldstone earth and embankment dams to Cutstone dams to wooden dams to concrete dams, all of those really helped to power the Industrial Revolution. They created water for canals. They created water for drinking water for big cities. Without dams to build the reservoirs, you wouldn't have had the cities needed for the Industrial Revolution. Without reservoirs, you don't have the water for steam engines. So really, the Industrial Revolution would not have happened without dams like this. And that's why this is the Industrial Revolution. Hey, wait just a second before you go. I need your help to keep the channel growing here. First thing you can do is really easy. Just like, subscribe, share this video. Tell all your friends about it. That spreads the word. YouTube will see that, and we'll show this to more people. Commenting more than just 2 or 3 words. YouTube says that's the most important thing you can get. It's the best kind of user interaction there is. So you can comment more than just 2 or 3 words. Also, if you're able to and are interested in helping out financially, these are pretty expensive videos to film, a lot of travel costs on top of the hours of work I do here. You can help out at patreon.com/Industrial Revolution, or become a member here on YouTube, or a single contribution through Super Thanks. Also have an affiliate store. If you click that, anything you buy there, a percentage of that purchase will come to help fund the channel. Thanks for your help, and look forward to seeing you next week.